Welcome back to Fast Market here on the TD Ameritrade Network. I'm Tom White, joined by my co-host Kevin Hinks. But let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment. That's going to be Andy Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Hey, thank you.
So we're talking food. This is Darden Restaurants, pretty diversified across the board as far as the different restaurants they've had. This stock's outperformed the overall market. It's only down about 5% so far this year. What kind of data do you guys have out of LikeFolio on Darden?
Yeah, Darden, I think the diversification of their brands is really the key to why this company has held up pretty well throughout this year despite market conditions. They've got a wide variety of brands that people tend to like quite a bit. If you look at consumer happiness across all of Darden brands, you've got everything from Olive Garden all the way up to Eddie V's, which is, and Cheddar Scratch Kitchen at 88% positive, Capital Grille at 81%. Overall, I think people just kind of like Darden restaurants. Anytime the worst that you have is 66% positive in the restaurant business, that's a pretty good portfolio, and have multiples of them at 80% or higher is great. But the real key is that they hit multiple price points with this. It's very different to go to Capital Grille than it is to Cheddar's or Olive Garden. And with consumers shifting kind of down market this year and trying to spend a little bit less money, we're seeing Darden really start to elevate its game in terms of the growth of those brands that are at the lower end. The consumer right now is stretched a little thin. In fact, one of the craziest things I saw in yesterday's CPI report is that food at home is actually increasing in price faster than food at restaurants, making it a little bit more to the consumer's liking to go out to eat rather than stay home, which is kind of the opposite of what you would think in a economic downturn. So Darden really there to capture all of those people that are ready to go out to the restaurant, maybe even save a little money over grocery bills and go out for a nice dinner at a reasonable price. And I think that diversification of assets is really doing Darden very well. As you can see here, even massive inflation and a downturn in the economy can't keep the American eater out of restaurants and out of fast food services, and we're shying away from the grocery store at this point. So I think that's very interesting, and it all points to good news for Darden going forward.
Andy, let's start this conversation with the fact that no restaurant group can dodge the recession bullet, right? They'll all see lower sales. That said, this company is expanding their footprint. They're opening twice as many stores this year as they did last year, and they have rising sales at the stores they have. So you're right. I think Tom's mentioned about diversity and how they can meet every price point. By the way, my favorite that isn't even in your list here is Seasons 52, which is they claim is their healthy option where they calorie control a lot of their entrees. That's the most popular one near my house, and the main drag near my house should be called Darden Way, because almost every restaurant is on that strip within a couple miles of my house. But Andy, this company and what they're doing and how they managed the pandemic and how they're coming out of it is still pretty impressive, even with the fears of a recession.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, when you compare them against peers near the top of the pack, only BJ's Restaurant really outpacing everybody else. But Darden right there with Texas Roadhouse and outperforming some of the, more single brands like Cracker Barrel, Cheesecake Factory, that don't have that diversification of options that Olive Garden has. Right now, for Olive Garden on TikTok even, Olive Garden is going a little bit viral because people are seeing how many bowls of pasta they can eat. And I'm sure if you're Olive Garden, you're just sitting there, loving the fact that you're still relevant. I mean, who'd have thought, 10, 20 years ago that we'd be talking about Olive Garden going viral on any platform in 2022. So I think, overall, this is a really well-run company that knows what it's doing. They have the ability, because of all their footprints, to control costs really well and to steer customers towards the items and menu selections where they maintain margins. So I think overall they're in a really good spot.
It's the breadsticks, Tom. I don't know what's in the breadsticks.
I haven't been there in a few years, but yeah, I used to love the breadsticks. Andy, when you look at this, what if some of these states start bringing back indoor mask mandates and stuff? That I've already heard rumors of that because they expect a spike in COVID cases during the winter months. Is that, make Darden susceptible maybe for the next quarter or two, because they're relying on a lot of foot traffic, even though digital transactions accounted for about 32% of all off-premise sales. But is this a concern for them moving forward, even though your data seems pretty positive on it?
Yeah, I think it's a concern for everybody. Look, this is not the kind of thing I'm sure there are some people, but I don't know them who want this to be a regular thing every winter. When people are getting sick, we have to, close restaurants or mask up every time we go anywhere. I think it's ridiculous. But Olive Garden, Darden, this is a company that's been through this. They have multiple brands. They have figured out a lot of takeout during COVID. They did a good job pivoting towards digital. And so I think that would hurt everybody. But again, Darden's one of those companies that is, seems to be very well run and could handle that type of pressure better than others, I think, because of the experiences that we had over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, the stocks outperformed the overall market pretty significantly.
Yep.
What kind of earnings score do you guys have on Darden?
Yeah, we're positive on it. I would say mildly positive. I think the stock holding up. I'd love to see the stock lower. It would be a great buying opportunity, but still like this company into any earnings event. I think they'll continue to outperform their peers.
All right, great stuff. Great data as always, Andy. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, that's Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio, breaking down the Darden.